New Year goals are something that they're almost customary, something we do by instinct every year. Once it gets to December, we start thinking about our year, how it went, and we try to recount the good, the bad, and for some people, look at the ugly, right? So when it comes to New Year goals, goals are not exactly what you should be looking at because a lot of data actually supports that New Year goals don't last. And by the end of January, about 8% of people would have actually forgotten about their New Year goals entirely. By the end of February, that number would have increased to 21%, which is almost 2x. So we can assume that by end of February, 20% of you would have actually forgotten totally about your New Year resolutions or goals. Now, the reason is that most people actually don't create New Year goals. Mentally, we psych ourselves up that we have created New Year goals and all that, but we actually haven't. What you need to do is to write. Writing is actually a very good exercise when it comes to creating your goals, right? So instead of just telling you not to set goals or to go after goals, but to rather focus on habits and look for systems that will help you to achieve your goals, this year I've come up with a theme, and I believe that with this theme, you can actually go beyond goals to actually working on the things that you want to, the things that will move you closer to your goal. Instead of focusing so much on the end, why don't you focus on the means? This year, I'm inviting you to adopt the reflect, the build, and the grow. Now, the theme didn't just come up. There are a lot of things that go into it. In this video, my goal is to simplify what I mean. Over the year, I'll be taking you through different models, different frameworks, different ideas that will help you to perform little mind surgeries to begin to change your mind to adapt to the things that you want to do. Because whatever goal you are trying to reach, mostly if you are nervous about it, it's not that you cannot achieve it, but usually is that the deadline is so near. Most people, after procrastinating for 10 years, they want to use 1 year to do something. It simply doesn't work that way. You've been trying to start a side business. You've not even been trying. Let me not put it that way. I mean, let's be honest. You've not been trying. You've just had an idea. You've fantasized about it. You've wished about it. And every year you say, this year, I'm going to start a side hustle. This friend has been running his side hustle and he has made a lot of money. It's even 3x his salary now. He can easily quit and he wouldn't even feel the sting of it on his finances. But he's still in his full-time job. So which means he's now earning about 4x. And that's simply crazy for you. You just can't imagine it. You don't know how he gets the time. You don't know how he's able to organize himself. You don't know how he gets the sales and all that. But you just keep fantasizing about the fact that you could be living his life. This year, I invite you to start by reflecting. What do I mean by reflecting? When it comes to reflection, I want you to actually think about 3 things. Now, I don't want you to think about a lot of things. Just think about these 3 things when it comes to reflecting. Look at your 2024. You can even do an audit of 10 years. I think that will actually be more indicative of how or the trend of your life. Sometimes when we are looking back, we don't look so far back. We keep looking in a short instance or the short distance and we lose focus of the long term. When you're looking at reflecting, you need to look at the things that you've been doing, the mindset that has driven these things. You need to reflect on immediately as well. 2024, how did it go? What did you do right? And what did you do wrong? But you should also be focusing on if these things actually align with your values. So when it comes to reflecting, I'm not going to invite you to write down the things that went well, the things that didn't go well. If you are doing a vision board, you'll be asked to do this. I think it's an important exercise and you can do it. But for you, as you are writing down these, I want you to go the extra mile to actually reflect about what I think is most important for a person to reflect on at each point in time. The type of person you want to be and the values you have to aspire to or you towards every day to become that type of person. Sometimes we are focusing on the things we want. We are focusing on where we want to reach. We are focusing on the achievements. We are focusing on all of these things for the new year. But for me, I think that in essence, the development of man is usually leading towards that of character. It's not just about acquiring these things, accumulating them and living a life of no consequence to the greater society that we find ourselves in. But rather, your life should be one of continuous character building. And this requires a lot of reflection, understanding yourself, understanding who you are or who you want to be so that you can work towards it if you are not that kind of person. But when it comes to values, you can almost always start thinking about it. If you want to be someone who is honest, then it's as simple as being truthful. Firstly, being truthful to yourself, being truthful to the people around you, the people you care about, being truthful at the workplace, being truthful to your colleagues, partners, and people like this. You can be truthful to everyone. But if you are not truthful to yourself, that is not going to get you any far, because you can easily lie to yourself that you are happy when you are not. And that is going to create an inner state of turmoil. So that's it for reflection. You look at the things that happened in 2024, the good, the bad, the ugly, but also look at your values. And the most critical question is, those actions you took in 2024, were they aligned with your values? If they aren't, then you need to start thinking deep about what your values even are, because sometimes it's difficult to define yourself, right? One of the popular questions or essays we wrote as kids growing up in primary school was myself, right? I remember my friend teachers almost always bringing it as an essay question, and I always went for it because I always knew what to write. Sometimes I wrote about my friends. I remember one time I wrote about my best friend, but that's just on the side. So sometimes it's so difficult to figure out who you are, but I think there's a shortcut, which is figuring out the values, the things that matter to you. If family matters to you, then dedicate more time to it. That's who you define yourself by, how well you treat your family. They are valuable to you. So if you go somewhere and they ask you, who are you? You don't just say, my name is this, and then that's it. Names are more of labels to use to identify people, but people are not their names. So the next stage of the 2025 theme is to actually build, right? Man was not made to just be on earth and hover around for over 70, 80 years and then expire, go back to the ground, and then that's it. You believe in God, you believe in heaven, then move on to heaven, right? But I don't think that is all of it. That's not all. That's not all. Life cannot be just about this cycle of coming, doing some things, hovering around, working a job, and just basically living a life of no consequence to the people around you, the future, and things like this. I think life is more. Life should be more of contribution. So you don't want to just come and live. You want to also build. When it comes to building, there are so many things you can consider. I think if you are doing a full-time job, you can build a hobby. You can even build something that you've already always had in your life. Relationships. All of us actually, I don't know why I said most of us, are probably just the tension of doing a video, speaking to a camera with no one in here. But on a more serious note, I think that relationships are important. So when it comes to building, you can focus on relationships. For instance, this year, I'm trying to be more conscious about them. I've usually not done a very good job at them. So probably that's why it just popped up in my head. But you can also focus on things you want to build, right? You want to build your finances. Okay, pick a pen and paper. 2025, what's my target for my finances? Maybe you are doing so well in the other aspects of life. You are doing well in spirituality. You are doing well in relationships. You are doing well in taking care of your health. You are doing well in these other areas that make your wheel of life. But just the single one, finances, is the one worrying you so much. Now, trust me, no matter how spiritual you are, no matter how good you are with relationships, and how perfect you are in the other aspects, if you don't have something like money, then your life is not balanced. If you look at the wheel of life, if you don't have your finances set, then you are in a state of imbalance. No matter what, you should always be at a little bit of each, right, to have some balance in life. So let's just say you want to focus on finances. You can take a pen and paper, consider the current sources of income you have and what's lacking. Try to write at least 20 options or things you can do, right, that are going to improve your finances in this year, 2025. You've written 20 things down. The first 5 may actually be easy, but as you move to 10, to 15 and approach 20, it becomes far more difficult, right? But if you are someone who is filled with ideas, it may be easy to write, but know that as you are writing, you have to work on them at some point, right? You are not just going to write them down for the sake of writing and close it down and never open it. But you need to focus on building something for yourself. If you already have a full-time job and you're okay, that's fine, right? You are okay with your finances, then you can focus on other things. You can focus on relationship, you can focus on spirituality. There are different areas of life that you want to build, right? Even if you are perfect in these other areas, you can find something as simple as a hobby and indulge something like that, and that's your focus for the year, right? I was scrolling through social media and someone actually said his one of his goals for last year was to watch over 100 movies, and for him that's what he wanted because he felt he hadn't been giving himself enough time to enjoy movies, right? He's a creative person, but he hasn't had time to enjoy movies, and that was one of the goals. Goals don't always have to be so serious, right? And if you are building something for yourself like hobby or something that's your leisure, right? Leisure. You can have goals like this or aspirations like this that you want to build into your life. It doesn't always have to be something tangible you are building, but finances are usually a big thing for a lot of people. So that's why I use finance as the prime example here. Now you've reflected, you've come up with your values, you've come up with something you want to build on, right? Now the third step or the third focus for this year actually comes as a result of doing the first two well. So if you haven't reflected, you haven't started building something, usually you're not going to grow, right? For some people, and for me personally, for a very long time, I felt growth was very simple, right? I tried to indulge in courses, online material. I was so huge on it, reading books everywhere. I'm not saying that it's bad to take courses, to watch YouTube videos, to read articles, to read books, and do all of these things. These things are all incredible for personal development. But you see, as much as I was consuming, I wasn't acting in tandem, right? It wasn't matching. I was consuming so much information that I wasn't acting. It wasn't matching. It got to a point where I was so overwhelmed with information that I couldn't even consume more information, right? So I saw that the number of books I read went down. I literally lost the interest. I had to start reading non-fiction to see if I'll get the interest back in play, right? I haven't taken courses in a very long time because of this, because I felt like I needed to actually go out there and start implementing what I know instead of just sitting back trying to make up for my inaction with more and more information. Now these days there's actually easy access, right? Easy access to information. These days the information we have is even bigger than the days where kings had to call people, experts to come and explain things to them. You can literally type on Google and you get answers that a king some centuries ago never had and could never dream of having. But they are at the fingertips, and we are doing what? Scrolling on social media, experiencing brain rot and being in conscious, subconscious anxiety, and trying to just seek more of the pleasure that comes immediately, right? If you look at the most successful people in the world who control the majority of the resources, the everything, right? There's a Pareto principle that says that about 10% of the people control 90% of the resources, and it's basically the 80-20 principle, right? But there's also a 10-90 principle that is very similar. So I digress once again, but the whole concept is that you have to go beyond just consuming content, consuming knowledge, consuming information, and trying to make up for inaction with more information, because the true lessons, the true insights, the true confidence, right? I mean, for me, I believe that confidence is built through action. The more you consume and the less you act, the more you start to dwindle in confidence, actually. And you can look it up. It's true. You can just even experiment on your whole life, right? If you want to take that experiment, let me know. I'll be glad to work with you, try to monitor you and see what you're doing. But you can try just consuming content, just trying to live your life on a free way, right? Do nothing, just try to consume more and more and more information, see more people's lives, try to read more, just fill yourself with so much information. If you don't have an outlet, right, act on that information. Eventually you go into mental breakdowns and so many problems will start popping up that you never even thought you could have, right? So a lot of these are intertwined. So for the last one, which is to grow, you have to have done the first two really well. And once you start building systems, start reflecting and making them a consistent part of your life. It's not just at the beginning of the year you reflect, you pick something to start building and then you grow, right? But the whole thing is to build a loop, right, of reflection, of building and growing. And as you do that, you reflect on your life, you build, you reflect on your life, you build, you reflect on your life, you build. As you keep going that way, you eventually grow into someone that you probably never thought possible, right? It's incredible just how much you can do in a span of 3 months and 6 months, let alone 12 months, right? If you want to be a more long-term thinker, you can take the next 5 years, right? Take the next 5 years. Consider just how much you can do in the next 5 years. It's not going to be something you probably have thought about. I think with more exposure, you'll be able to understand what is possible. But for now, just go with what you know. more. Go with what you want. Go with what you value the most. And as you learn more, as you reflect more, as you build more, you will get a feedback of what really matters to you. As for values, they will always change. And as your values change, you change things that you're actually building on. And as you change those, you grow into a better person. Initially, I said man is actually usually our North Star, right? Intuitively, I believe it's towards development of character of a better person. So whatever you are doing, it's always good to figure out that are you actually becoming a better person. That's all I have for today. I could keep going on and on and on, but then I would keep regurgitating everything. I'll make more videos on some of these concepts. If you don't understand anything, let me know in the comments. If you like something that I said in the video, also put it down in the comments and I'll be glad to hear what you think of this. Just the thoughts I've shared with you. So unfortunately, I didn't introduce myself. So if you stay this long, I think you deserve a little introduction. My name is Enoch Wegwe Kabange. I'm an online marketer, and if you want to know more about that, my details will be in the comments, in the first comment. All right, see you another time.